This is CBN Newswatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Lawmakers in California held a hearing today on a controversial resolution that some say condemns religious leaders who oppose homosexuality. Several pastors in the state say the measure threatens their constitutional rights. Charlene Aaron has been following the story and joins us now with more. Charlene.
Wendy, there has been growing controversy over the resolution called ACR 99, which passed the California State Assembly earlier this year and reportedly urges pastors to affirm LGBT lifestyle. It calls on counselors, pastors, religious workers, educators, and institutions with great moral influence to counsel on LGBTQ matters from a place of love and compassion. It also condemns attempts to change unwanted same-sex attraction or gender confusion as unethical and harmful. Well, several Christian leaders in the state are speaking out against the resolution, saying it infringes upon their free exercise of religion. Russell Willingham, executive director of New Creation Ministries, says ACR discriminates against perfectly rational adults who seek an alternative viewpoint to the gay-affirming counseling many of them have already tried and found wanting. I believe ACR 99 sets the stage for future laws that will criminalize pastoral caregivers like me who provide such a resource. But one pastor who supports the measure met with the authors of the resolution in an effort to build a bridge between Christians and the LGBT community. He denies that it would force clergy to affirm the LGBT lifestyle.
It's not a law. That's really important to say, that it's nobody's being forced to do anything. It's a suggestion. The thing that we agreed with the LGBTQ caucus on was that we are not for any kind of coercive behavior on the part of leaders or counselors or pastors. And as we shared with the LGBTQ caucus, we don't know anybody in California that's Christian that is actually doing what they're suggesting that we're doing.
Meanwhile, several former gay individuals argue against the resolution, calling it discriminatory against people like them who overcame suicidal thoughts by following their faith away from their LGBT identities. Wendy, back to you.
And joining us now with more is Greg Burt with the California Family Council. Greg, tell us more about this bill. How did it get introduced and what's its goal?
Well, the bill was introduced by a member of the LGBT caucus, and more or less it's a resolution that's directed at pastors and Christian counselors, more or less telling them that they cannot tell people, shouldn't tell people that, God could change them, that change is possible, that sexual orientation can change, or gender confusion can change. It's more or less, and it's also blaming their beliefs for stigmatizing those in the LGBT community and causing high rates of suicide. It really is a bill that's supposed to silence pastors and counselors from trying to help folks who have unwanted same-sex attraction that want or are asking for help.
Well, Greg, doesn't this bill cross religious freedom boundaries?
No, absolutely. It is the state telling the church what beliefs are appropriate for them to teach and to preach and to counsel their members. It's a complete violation of the First Amendment. And before the Senate Judiciary Committee today, we plan to tell them that.
How are Christian leaders in the state responding there in California?
We have a bunch of pastors and Christian leaders who are going to be coming to the Capitol today to just advocate for their own religious liberty. People should have the right to find happiness the way they find happiness. And if that's living according to their faith, then pastors and, Christians should be able to pursue that faith without interference from the state.
Greg, what are you expecting from today's hearing?
Well, we expect, if history is any indication what's going to happen, they'll probably pass this bill and then it will go before the entire Senate for a vote. And so we are hoping to simply make our voices heard, make sure this legislature knows that we are not going to stand by and be silent while they tell us what beliefs are appropriate to preach in our own churches.
Yeah. Can you share a conversation you've had perhaps with a pastor there in California and some of their concerns and real fears that they have?
Yeah, some of the pastors who have come up to testify previously have actually left the LGBT lifestyle themselves. And what they're saying is this bill discriminates against me and the very help that kept me from committing suicide. I was distraught over these unwanted feelings, and counseling and discipleship I got in my church helped me. And so they feel very offended that the state would try and stop that from happening in the future for other people.
That's going to be some powerful testimony. Well, Greg, how can our viewers help? What can they do? How can they pray?
Well, they can pray for these legislatures that they would open their eyes. And even if they disagree with people's beliefs about sexual orientation and gender identity, at least they should acknowledge that people should have the right to find happiness the way they choose. Just like the Declaration of Independence says that, we have an unalienable right to pursue happiness, right? So I would hope that they would defend that.
Absolutely. Greg Burt with the California Family Council, thank you so much for being with us today. Our prayers are with you.
Thank you so much.
President Trump is now home from the G7 summit in France, where he met with the world's top leaders. The president called the summit truly successful and said the word to describe the gathering of the wealthiest democracies is unity.
We were accomplishing a lot, but I think more importantly, we were getting along very well.
Did come under some pressure to stop the trade dispute with China. French President Emmanuel Macron said it creates uncertainty and is bad for the world economy. Trump did not attend the G7's meeting on climate change, the only world leader not to show. He says he wants clean air and water, but doesn't want to sacrifice America's wealth. 19 states and Washington, D.C. filed a lawsuit yesterday over the Trump administration's new immigration regulations. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security said last week it will alter a federal agreement that limits how long immigrant children can be kept in detention. A previous settlement said immigrant children must be kept in the least restrictive setting for no more than 20 days. The new regulation would allow families in detention longer than that. Some claim doing so would harm the children.
I have no doubt in my mind at all that someday my kids, all of our kids, will look back and say, what on God's green earth were all of you thinking? What were you possibly thinking as a nation to treat children this way? There is no doubt in my mind. We are here today because we want to say that Washington State is not going to be a part of that. We're not a part of that.
About 475,000 families have crossed the border so far this year. We'll have more on this story and others this evening on Faith Nation. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. Well, residents in Puerto Rico are preparing for Tropical Storm Durian. Forecasters say Durian could turn into a Category 1 hurricane. It's the fourth tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season and currently has winds of 60 miles per hour. Rescue crews from Miami are on their way to the island in case Durian hits hard.
In our warehouse, we keep a complement of equipment for swiftwater capability, medical cash for our own personnel, as well as any potential survivors that we'll have to treat. Hazmat capability, all of our rescue gear for if there was a building collapse.
Forecasters expect it to hit Puerto Rico tomorrow and strike the Dominican Republic early on Thursday. Meteorologist Justin Povic with AccuWeather brings us the latest on Durian.
Tropical storm Durian holding its own, though dry air so far has not allowed this system to intensify. Fairly symmetric. And talking about those squally conditions on the east side, that's where some of the impacts will continue to be here throughout the better part of the afternoon. Again, running from Martinique on southbound, and then you notice tropical storm warnings out for Puerto Rico, eastern Hispaniola, as well as hurricane watches here. We're going to be talking about impacts later on Wednesday evening into Wednesday night. And this will be a 1 on the AccuWeather Real Impact Scale, looking at localized flooding and the potential for some high winds. Again, this has to satisfy at least one of these impacts, and it does appear that the heavy rain component of 4 to 8 inches localized to 10 inches could be concerning here, especially as we talk about southern portions of Puerto Rico. Of course, the big question mark and something we'll be watching very closely is how much land interaction is there? Does it make its way through the Mona Passage, or does it spend quite a bit of time over eastern Hispaniola with, again, some of the rugged terrain. Nevertheless, we will see impacts in terms of gusty winds. Some of those winds could be locally damaging on the order of 60 to 80 miles per hour. Flash flooding with the heavy rain as well. And then, of course, as this reemerges back over the open Atlantic waters, we'll be watching conditions here to see how much of the internal structure is still intact. Waters are warm, so potentially we could be talking about further strengthening as we make our move further down the line heading into the upcoming weekend. Back over to you.
Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be back. But before we go, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
The New York Times is accusing conservative allies of President Trump of attacking journalists. A recent article specifically points out a group for researching and releasing embarrassing statements and social media posts by journalists. This includes a New York Times editor who posted anti-Semitic tweets in college. While the Times says the editor's remarks are a violation of standards, it also claims the group's goal is to harass and embarrass anyone affiliated with leading news organizations that are asking tough questions. One writer at Politico disagrees. Jack Schaefer writes that journalists don't deserve a get-out-of-bigotry jail-free card just because they're journalists. Joining us now for some perspective on this topic is our friend Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center. Dan, media groups like the Times and CNN are crying foul, but is this any different from them holding people in government accountable for their statements?
It's not different at all. In fact, they don't just hold people in government. We just saw the New York Times do a hit job of Western journalism. We watched NBC go after Epoch Times. You've had outlets target individuals on Twitter just because they support Trump. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of things. And it's ridiculous. Sulzberger's comments hold the Times up to ridicule. And Jack Schaefer said that, and he's right.
Well, why do journalists believe they shouldn't be held accountable to the same standards as others?
Well, I mean, they think, I think the sort of collective they, I mean, there are exceptions, but the collective they for journalism think that they're doing sort of almost priesthood, a holy order of journalism. And look, I'm a huge supporter of journalism, spent decades in news organizations, but that doesn't mean that you're protected. There are outlets. CNN has a whole media team that goes and targets different people. This is a common practice. One of New York Times reporters actually went on TV and said, this is just basically people doing Oppo research. Exactly. Why can't, why make a big deal with this? Saying, yes, if people find stuff, then we'll deal with it when that happens.
Yeah. Well, Dan, the Times publisher is calling it a campaign against the free press. Do you agree?
No, it's almost like journalists decided they own the First Amendment. They don't. The Constitution, last time I checked, belongs to all of us. That means freedom of the press belongs to each one of us. Free speech belongs to each one of us. So if you say or do really embarrassing things, don't be surprised if somebody goes and looks in your Twitter feed and says, hey, oh, I saw that you said this thing. One of the conservative reporters came out and said, look, people targeted tweets of hers in high school. But that's okay because the press is supposed to be doing it? No. Everybody plays by the same set of rules.
Well, what do you think, though, about this group, whoever they are, that is uncovering these embarrassing statements and things from 30, 40 years ago in some cases? I mean, is that really serving a purpose? Is it helping any of us?
Well, I mean, I don't think they started the fight. And that's, the left and the traditional media started this fight where they think that they are above critique, above any sort of investigation on their end, but they can go around and systematically try to destroy people. The guy who does the memes calls on Twitter Carpe Donkum. Media outlets went out to try to reveal who he is. Why? He does silly memes on Twitter, but they became important as a way of targeting him. So, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, or as they said in the movie Die Hard, welcome to the party, son.
Well said. Can't say it any better than that. All right, Dan Gaynor, thanks so much for your insights. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still ahead, what caused an abortion doctor to change his mind and fight for the lives of babies?
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
by sharing their knowledge
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
and their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
A doctor who performed hundreds of abortions now is speaking out against the practice. CBN's health reporter Lori Johnson spoke to Dr. Haywood Robinson about how an encounter with Jesus caused him to change his mind about abortion and even travel the country speaking out against it. Here's a look at her interview with him on this week's Healthy Living.
Abortion pays well, and the way it would work, the doctor would get a split of the fee, usually about half. And the more you do, the more money you get. And it's a very depersonalized situation. The first time you meet these patients, you meet them in that procedure room. You don't know if they've had informed consent. You don't even know if they've been coerced. You come in there, you do your duty, so to speak, and you don't want to build a relationship with that patient because I think in your heart you know you're doing them a disservice. This whole abortion war or Holocaust is the biggest Holocaust in human history. Never have we had something that is global and so deadly. Approximately 60 million, that's 60 million babies are aborted annually on the planet Earth. There is nothing in human history like that amount of death.
And so how many would you do, for example, in a day?
It could vary. Some days it may only be 5 to 7. On a quote-unquote good day, it might be 10 to 12. But for our audience needs to know that if you were to take the money variable out of this whole abortion industry, we wouldn't be sitting here even discussing the matter. This whole war on babies is fueled by money. It's a very, very lucrative business, very lucrative.
It's so wonderful to hear you talk so candidly about this because you were on the inside. Have you ever estimated how many abortions you performed overall?
And you know, I don't know. The best I could do is say well over the span of approximately 3-4 years. And if I were doing maybe 5 a week, I could probably get to some number of a few hundred. But just one is an absolute tragedy because each one of those babies was conceived really by God, and they had a purpose, and we robbed them of that purpose. And it's unfortunate. The other thing we need to be aware of as physicians who are here to minister to people, we have committed a gross violation of the public trust, because what we were called to do was protect all life, and not just rich or poor or born versus preborn. It's all life that we were called to save, and it's horrible. I believe as the Lord has saved me and the Lord has worked with my wife, that He's going to use this abortion issue. We're going to get it overturned in the United States, and our country is going to be the first developed country to push back on abortion.
Amen. Let it be. Well, you can see Lori's full interview with Dr. Robinson tonight on Healthy Living, 9:30 Eastern, right here on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, crosses on a hillside. Lots of crosses. The numbers grow across generations as a symbol of one nation's faith and determination to endure.
We will move the American embassy
to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
And finally today, more than 200,000 crosses are standing tall on a hill in Lithuania. The collection of crosses act as a retreat for locals and visitors alike looking for inner peace. The pilgrimage site displays crosses of all shapes and sizes. The first were put up back in 1863. Locals say they've become a symbol of resistance in the face of the brutal occupation this Baltic country has faced over the centuries.
This place is a symbol of, about the faith, about believing in a future that Lithuanians can fight for freedom in a different ways. And yeah, this place was destroyed for 5 times maybe, and it was rebuilt all the time. Every time it was rebuilt.
The beautiful cross, the symbol of everything Jesus did for us. May you find joy and peace today in the cross of Jesus. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Newswatch. You can find more on the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News Channel. We'd love to know what you thought about today's show. Email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. From all of us here, goodbye and God bless you.